chant yes. Peeps, so hey YouTube, this is Doris. I am here to do the NXT SmackDown update. The NXT show this week was indeed a holiday special like I originally thought. They did have some matches, but they were previously recorded matches. It was still a decent show. They had Roderick Strong, who took on former Evolve champ Austin Theory. The winner was Roderick Strong. It was a good match. Theory came close a couple of times. He pretty much gave Strong a run for his money. We had Isaiah Swerve, who took on Gentleman Jack Gallagher from 205 Live and NXT UK. Swerve won, and he did control most of the match. Bianca Belair took off a girl named Shotzi Blackheart, who has mostly done independent work with a lot of the women's divisions that are out there. And it was pretty much back and forth. Blackheart was pretty good, but uh, Bianca did win. We had Dominic Dijakovic take on Bronson Reed, and Dominic to his weight. We have seen him in the past, and that's pretty much what he does. He's a big guy, not really tall, but he is heavy set, and he does do a lot of splashes, things like that. We saw Keith Lee teaming with Leo Rush versus Damian Priest and Tony Nese, and Lee and Rush got the win. It was kind of a comedy match, not really too intense, but it was a decent match. The funny thing is, WWE is boasting its ratings that went up that week, but needless to say, AEW did not have a show, and that most likely contributed to the rise in ratings. But we will see what happens next week. I don't think AEW has a show next week either because of New Year's, but we'll see. And there is a little bit of news. Apparently, on December 26th, Andrade beat Rey Mysterio at a house show at Madison Square Garden. He hit him with his hammerlock DDT and won the title. Uh, WWE does have that on their website, but it hasn't really been announced yet. We'll probably hear about that on Monday. And I think it is a pretty good chance that Shayna Baszler is going to be coming to the main roster. She lost her title last week, if you remember, on the 18th. And normally, when they lose the titles, they come up to the main roster. And this is just in time for the Royal Rumble. So I think she's going to be one of the surprise entrants in the Royal Rumble for the women's. And I think she's a favorite to win and to go after Becky Lynch for her title. Fandango is out for 6 months. Apparently, he had Tommy John surgery. And now we are on to SmackDown. They started out the show with Elias, who had a song about the year in 2019, and also a few of glimpses into tonight's show. The first match was supposedly going to be the triple threat match between Daniel Bryan, King Corbin, and The Miz. Bryan comes out first, then Corbin comes out on his chariot, and he's got a mic. We know there's trouble now. He talks about how The Miz and Bryan don't deserve a chance at Wyatt, not only because they're terrible fathers, but because he has beaten Roman Reigns twice, and no one else has done that since Roman Reigns has come back from beating cancer. And he gets down by the ringside, and all of a sudden, Roman Reigns' music hits. So you got his guys carrying the chariot, kind of looking around, and they end up dumping the chariot, and he goes rolling out of it, stands up, starts yelling at them, and then they take off flying when they see Roman Reigns standing behind Corbin. Corbin turns around just to get a Superman punch from Roman. Roman pretty much beats his butt around ringside and goes to spear him when Corbin jumps the barrier and runs through the audience. We next see him in the back telling someone in an authority figure, I don't really know who it was. He was in a suit that he was not wrestling and they needed to postpone the match. The guy was saying that they're not postponing the match, that it will happen tonight. And then that's the last we see of them for a minute. And then we end up having a six-man tag, which was Braun Strowman teaming with the New Day, Kofi Kingston, and Big E versus Shinsuke, Cesaro, and Sami Zayn. After a lot of underhanded tactics from Team Zayn, they pretty much dominated Kofi. But finally, Kofi gets a tag to Strowman, and the crowd goes wild because Strowman comes in the ring. Strowman dominates Team Sammy, and then there's more cheating between Team Sammy. We have Shinsuke, who has the pancake plate, and he's going to use it on Strowman while Sammy's got the ref's attention. But Kofi comes up behind him, takes the pancake plate, and hits him over the head with it, knocks Zayn down. Strowman picks him up, body slams him, and gets the pin. Just as after the match, Strowman is going to leave the ring, and we have Big E and Kofi that grab microphones, and Big E says, I know you all know that Strowman has great hands, but did you know that Strowman has great hips? And they're trying to convince Strowman to dance. Yes, I thought the same thing. I was like, no way, he's not dancing. And they're like grabbing his hips and going, come on, swing those hips, swing those hips. And finally, he's like looking at them and he's not buying into it. And then the crowd starts chanting, "Get these hips, get these hips." Strowman pushes New Day out of the way and he starts busting a move. Starts dancing. He's like, it was comical. It was comical. So that was pretty funny that we got to see Strowman bust a move. After that, Lacey Evans was on the Moment of Bliss. She was talking about her match last week with Sasha Banks and how Sasha Banks crossed the line when she was taunting taunting freaking Evan's daughter at ringside. And now Evans is a mama bear, and Sasha is between her and her cub. And then she goes to the ring, and we have a tag team match with Evans teaming with Dana Brooke, taking on Bayley and Sasha. And unfortunately, they have Brooks to the point where she has no offense whatsoever. So she ends up tapping out to the bank statement. Wasn't a very long match. And that was how that one ended. So now they tell us that the triple threat match that was originally Corbin, Miz, and Bryan is going to be a one-on-one match because Corbin is refusing to wrestle because of Reigns. And then we go out back and we see a backstage segment with Otis and Mandy. Otis has a fruitcake that he tells Mandy his mama made it just for her because she baked him a ham last week. And she takes it, he goes away. Mandy says she has a match, and she goes and finds Sonya and says, Sonya, my match is next, you coming? Sonya says, I was out there by myself last week, baby, you should be out there by yourself this week. And Mandy starts coming up with excuses of why she wasn't there for Sonya last week. Sonya says, "Let me finish signing these calendars and I'll be out." So Mandy goes out, faces Carmella, and ends up losing to Carmella. Sonya never comes out to the ring. So we're probably going to have a feud start there. And then we see the match start between Bryan and Miz for who's going to face Wyatt. And it seems like it's going to be a good match. Starts off high flying, back and forth. And then Corbin's security comes out and interferes and causes a double disqualification. We see Corbin in the back. Charlie says to him, "Corbin, what was that all about?" And Corbin says, "You know as well as I do, they don't deserve to wrestle. If I can't wrestle, they can't wrestle either." And then Charlie says, "Well, just so you know, Roman was told to leave the arena." And Corbin says, "Oh, in that case, maybe I will wrestle." And before he gets the chance, Miz and Bryan go out back and attack him and his entourage. And we see them off fighting. And then we see Ziggler, who comes out and is hitting on Mandy Rose, sees the fruitcake, and she tells him that Otis gave it to her. And Ziggler tells her, "You don't want this. He's given this to everybody. There's nothing special about this." And he puts it on the floor and squashes it. And then Corbin ends up finding him and drags him away. So we know they're coming up with some type of underhanded tactics. So then we end up going to the triple threat match. Starts out pretty good. Corbin basically, every time he gets in the ring, gets double teamed by Miz and Bryan. Ends up spending more time outside of the ring than he does in the ring. We see him kind of making cameo appearances in the ring, hitting once or twice. And then we end up seeing Ziggler come down and super kick The Miz when The Miz has the upper hand on him. And then Roman Reigns comes back, takes out Ziggler, and Reigns and Corbin end up fighting off into the backstage of the arena. And Miz and Bryan continue the match, and they kind of keep tossing around, reversing uh, submission holds, and then finally Bryan gets the label lock on The Miz, and The Miz taps. And then we see the Firefly on the big Firefly Funhouse on the big screen. Now all of a sudden, after having a red belt since Survivor Series, I'm sorry, not Survivor Series, SummerSlam, Bray Wyatt all of a sudden has a blue belt, which I had heard they were going to end up doing that because they can't have the red belt on SmackDown. SmackDown's the blue brand. But basically, he tells Bryan all Bryan's got to do is let him in. And is Bryan willing to do that? Both Bryan and the crowd chant yes. And Raw goes off the air. That is pretty much it for this week for NXT and SmackDown. There's probably a little bit more news to go over, but nothing really outlandish. Nothing breaking. We got a bunch of people that are probably going to be leaving in 2020, but most of them we know about because they're not being used and they've asked for their release a few times. All right, peeps. So if you like what you saw, hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed yet, do that. And I will see you guys probably Tuesday or Wednesday with my Raw update. Raw should be pretty good this week. So if you can, make sure you tune into that. Other than that, you have until tomorrow to vote for your NXT year 2019 best of. Other than that, peeps, I will see you later. Peace out. Thanks, YouTube.